Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander Scores Studio. Welcome to the show. So, spoiler season, day 2 is here. Are you ready for it? I am. Just had my first cup of coffee if you couldn't tell. Yeah, there is no such thing as snooze during spoiler season. Just wake up, there's the alarm, and yeah, get on the phone, see what's new, and get out of bed. Get that coffee, jump into it, because my goodness, this is an exciting new card. One that can do some pretty gross and awesome things, and oh my goodness, I absolutely love the flavor of this card. It's kind of like Yuriko meets, well, old Hidetsugu in a way, and yeah, let's jump into it. So we've got Hidetsugu, and not old Hidetsugu, I guess the newer Hidetsugu. Anyways, the middle Hidetsugu. Now at this point, goodness gracious, off to a good start today. Hidetsugu and Kairi, a 5/4 flying Ogre Demon Dragon, because yeah, this is one of those combination commanders, right? Combination legendary creatures where they're fighting together, and Wizards wanted to put as many legendary creatures in the set as they could, and they're like, well, we don't have enough cards, so let's just stick them together, and that's fine. In my opinion, at least it's fine. 2 blue, and a black, and it says, when Hidetsugu and Kairi enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards, then put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order. So basically, ETB Brainstorm. Again, card advantage and selection and kind of hand manipulation as well, on top of library manipulation too. On top of that, of course, when Hidetsugu and Kairi dies, exile a top card of your library. Target opponent loses life equal to its mana value. If it's an instant or sorcery card, you may cast without paying its mana cost. This is incredibly spicy, and I love how these two things pair together incredibly well. So yeah, basically, hey, ETB, let's draw some cards. Let's set the top of our library, and again, that can either be with one of the cards that we drew back on top, or maybe we've got a good card in our hand that we actually want to put on top to then utilize that death trigger, which of course, hey, look at the top of your library. Cool. Target opponent's going to lose a massive amount of life potentially, depending on what you put on top. Again, there are certain cards in Magic that cost a ton of mana. Yeah, you can kind of like, not like 2-shot an opponent, but you could probably 3-shot an opponent. Regardless, yeah, if it's an instant or sorcery card, you may cast without paying its mana cost. Now, so if it is an instant or sorcery, you get a free spell cast, which is great. Now, keep in mind, you are exiling this regardless, so it's not like you can keep reusing that top card again and again and again. So even if it's not instant or sorcery, yeah, you can't just be like, okay, I got a 10 mana value card on top. Well, let's just keep it there and keep making players lose life equal to that. No, it's going to go away regardless. So yeah, you are going to get more value out of it. Obviously, if it is an instant sorcery, and there are some massive instant sorceries on the top, or that you can get on top of your library, that can drain your opponents for a ton and also give you a ton of value. And of course, there are ways to get an absurd amount of value out of this commander again and again and again. Yeah, there are certain types of spells that I'm definitely going to be recommending that you consider for this one. And again, it's kind of like a Yuriko in a way. I mean, like, Yuriko is more powerful. Yuriko, first up, can cheat on commander attacks. Also, affects all your opponents based on the top card of your library, and it goes into your hand, so you can kind of utilize other ones as well. Regardless, it's an interesting card. This one, though, in my opinion, can do some kind of like really cool kind of combination plays, though, that can really kind of chain things again and again and again, and you can just kind of get absurd. There might be some ways to, I mean, I wouldn't say go infinite, but go near infinite. If you can just keep getting, the right cards in your hand, there are ways to maybe double up, your draws and stuff like that as well that we'll talk about here in a bit. But yeah, there are some spicy things that you can do this one, and I'm really excited about. There's some really good budget buys. There are some really good pricier picks. And I probably should mention what those are. Budget buys, again, are cards that I'm going to be recommending that are less than $1 cards are within my budget. Pricier picks are, well, a bit more expensive than that sometimes. Sometimes some of the cards I'm going to bring up might be a little more expensive than that, but they might be within your budget. So yeah, make sure you're considering those as well. Regardless, all these cards are going to be in the link in the description below, so make sure you check that out. Now, with all that said, let's jump into those budget buys to consider. And the first one that I'm going to be bringing up, well, it's kind of just like an example of a kind of wider class of cards. Cackling Counterpart. Hey, any kind of a clone spell is good in the book of Hidetsugu and Kairi. My goodness, is this a fun play. Hey, put a token on the battlefield that's copy target creature you control. Instant for 1 blue blue. Yeah, you can flash it back if it's, not the card that you exile. Regardless, you can flash it back for 5 blue blue. So, hey, let's make a token copy of our commander. Now, our commander obviously does have an ETB, which we get. It does have a death trigger, which we will also get because, again, the legend rule will apply, and we have to sacrifice. Well, we're going to be sacrificing the token. So, all you need to do is cast this, and hey, you get your ETB and death trigger all in one. You get to look at the top card, or you get to, draw 3, put 1 on top, look at the top card of your library. Well, maybe it's another clone spell. Cool. Do it again, and again, and again. That's where I'm saying, like, you could, if you're set up properly, maybe you've got a couple of these in your hand, like a couple of these kinds of cards, you're kind of like saving them up essentially. You can keep getting them on top again and again and again for more and more value. Maybe you've got other ways to get value. Maybe you've got ways to double up on that life loss, ways to double up on the ETB or death trigger. We'll talk about some really cool things here in a bit, but yeah, there are some ways you can kind of chain value with this commander. That's pretty cool. Of course, also, just regular clones work with this commander as well. Now, obviously, you can't cheat those off the top of your commander, but if they are in your hand and you're playing them, yeah, you can utilize just a simple clone as well to get this immense amount of value. Moving on. Yes, you are in blue and black. Yeah, there are plenty of tutors, including, just your standard tutors like Diabolic Tutor. So go get that exact card that you need for the situation that you're in. Again, maybe an opponent is at, say, 10 life, and there are plenty of cards in your deck that, have a converted mana cost of 10 or more. Go get one of those, get it into your hand, and then, yeah, you've got plenty of ways to probably, get that. Again, if you just cast a Calculate Counterpart or whatever, you have got ways to actually get that on top of your library, ways to take advantage of that death trigger, ways to drain an opponent with that, or just, get a card that can set yourself up for a win with this kind of a card, set yourself up for some combo potential as well. Yeah, lots of tutors, like Dialogue Tutor. I guess I probably should have read it. Just go get any card in your library in your hand. That's it. Shuffle your library. That's it. Moving on, this one is a bit more complex when it comes to a tutor. This one does have Transmute, Dimir House Guard. Transmute means that you can pay 1 black and discard it to go search your library for anything that it costs 4, because this has the exact same for mana cost. So go get anything that costs 4, get in your hand. Again, there are plenty of great cards that cost 4 that you can utilize with this. Also, this is a sacrifice outlet, which is incredibly impactful with this commander. Well, also is a 2/3 fear, which is nice. Sacrifice a creature to regenerate your house card. So it can be pretty hard to deal with as a sacrifice outlet. And again, being able to sacrifice your commander can be huge. So you can get that death trigger when you need it. And yeah, there are ways to really take advantage of that death trigger in ways to ensure that you can get it again and again and again. And that your commander actually won't be going away forever. Because there are plenty of cards in this color combination that ensure that your commander is going to be coming back. Like, Undying Evil. A great card, instant for just a single black mana. Target creature gains Undying until end of turn. That means that if it doesn't have a counter on it, it comes back into play with a +1 counter on it. So, yeah, basically, make sure that your commander doesn't have a counter on it, have it come back. And then, yeah, you basically are getting your commander back into play with that ETB. And set yourself up for that death trigger again for just a single mana. Instead of like, oh no, my commander died, send back to the command zone, recast for 7 mana. Yeah, there are definitely ways to ensure that you are kind of cheating your commander back into play. Again, either of these kind of, effects that basically kind of cheat death, or, other ways to, get your commander out of your grave, like reanimation effects like Zombify. There's plenty of those in this color combination as well. So make sure you're taking advantage of those kinds of cards. Moving on. Precognition Field. Cards that actually let you look at the top card of your library like this one. You may look at the top card of your library. You may cast top card of your library. It's an instant or sorcery card. 3, exile the top card of your library. Yeah, cards that let you look at the top can be very impactful because, again, sometimes you're not able to set yourself up, bang, bang, between like the, hey, ETB and LTB. You're not going to be able to just be like, okay, yeah, brainstorm basically first, set myself up, get ready for it. Sometimes it's not going to work out in that way. So having a way that you can like, okay, I know what the top card of my library is. I know that it's a massive card. Great. I'll have my commander die and then, come bring it back probably in a different way. And then ensure that I get to, drain an opponent with that massive spell. Maybe it's instant sorcery that you really need. Being able to utilize this card can be great. And again, hey, if you don't like the top card of your library, get rid of it. You can exile it with this, and then maybe you hit something else that's bigger that you need. And also on top of this, it's kind of like also making the top of your library essentially an extra kind of part of your hand. It's just an extension of your hand now, and if you've got instant sorcerers on top of your library, you can just cast them from there. So that can be a ton of value for you. So yeah, there's now obviously more than one way to just cast things off the top of your library, either with your commander's death trigger or with this as well. So yeah, make sure you're considering a card like this one. Next up, remember I said that, cloning, your commander is a good thing? Well, Clone Legion has something to say about that as well. For each creature target player controls, create a token that's a copy of that creature. Oh, also, this costs 7 blue. So 9 mana in total. Obviously, if you hit this off the top, you're like, drain you for 7, cast this. Now, obviously, if you are just copying your things, great. You get your commander's ETB again. You might hit another, copy effect or something else that's massive too. So yeah, you can definitely chain that, which can be great. And also, if you've got other creatures in play, you get value from them too. But also, let's say Billy over there has a giant army. Cool, let's copy Billy's army. That can also just be a great way to get a ton of value out of this and just say, yeah, now I've got a huge army too, and I'm going to be threatening on more than one axis, essentially. Instead of just, draining you with these kinds of spells, I'm also going to have, your slivers or whatever they are. So actually with slivers, that can get pretty dangerous if you got all the effects that, pump all the slivers. So yeah, be careful of that. But regardless, plenty of ways that you can utilize a card like this. And again, giant converted mana costs like this that you can cheat on can always be a great thing, especially ones that are going to be draining your opponents for a ton. Speaking of which, Decree of Pain. Hey, let's wipe the board. Let's clean things up here. Destroy all creatures. They can't be regenerated. Draw a card for each creature destroyed this way. This costs 6 black. So again, 8 mana in total. Draining an opponent for 8 is a lot. Again, being able to cast this for free is very nice. Draw a ton of cards with this for an absurd amount of value. Oh, and also, hey, if you utilize this again with some kind of, like an undying, card, undying effect to bring your commander back and cheat death. Hey, yeah, everyone's creatures die. Mine comes back. I get my brainstorm essentially after I just drew a ton of cards. And now I get to put whatever I need back on top of my library, set myself up for my next giant draining effect that I'm then going to cast for free again. So yeah, this can really pair well. If you really don't need to utilize this, or if you really are in a desperate situation, you need to draw a card, 3 black, cycle it away, and it's going to drain. It's going to give all creatures -2/2 until end of turn. So that can be a good play as well. Moving on, Treasure Cruise. Hey, there's plenty of cards out there that again have a high converted mana cost, some that you might not be able to utilize in your hand really all that much. This one you definitely can, so you're not going to be stuck with it. It's got Delve, so you can kind of get down on that. You can knock down that 7 generic cost. You can even just cast this for a single blue mana. Draw 3 cards. And again, if it is on top of your library and you're casting it for free with your commander, hey, drain an opponent for 8. So again, cards like this that are more flexible, cards like this that have Delve, that have a cost reduction, can definitely be very impactful with this kind of a commander. Thought Reflection. This is, I believe, the final budget buy I'm going to be bringing up. It's an enchantment 4/4, blue. So again, not instant or sorcery, but still a card that can have a massive impact. Even if it's just on top of your library, sure, drain someone for 7, that's great. But when it's in play, if you draw a card, draw 2 cards instead. That is huge. Again, with your commander on that ETB, every single time you're drawing 3 cards, putting 2 back from your hand. It does not, adjust the number you're putting back from your hand on top of your library based on the number of cards that you're drawing. So, hey, double that up, draw 6 cards, put 2 back. Now, instead of just netting 1 card, you are netting, 4 cards? You are just kind of 4 times the amount of value that's coming into your hand. That's absurd. So, yeah, a card like this, again, with the amount of cards you're going to be drawing with your commander, can just give you an absurd amount of card advantage throughout the game. And it's definitely a card that I'd be considering with a commander like this. But now we've talked about the budget buys, let's talk about the pricier picks. And yeah, cards that are out of my budget and some that are much out of my budget, like, extra turn spells. Temporal Trespass, a great card. This one costs 11 mana, 8 blue. Sorcery, again, Delve like Treasure Cruise. So again, you actually can cast this from your hand by delving away cards out of your graveyard. And yeah, just cast this for just 3 mana. But again, if it is on top and you hit it, hey, drain you for 11? Ouch. Take an extra turn for this one, exile Temporal Trespass. So yeah, basically, let's just get an extra turn and then do it again and again. This is kind of the other dangerous side of this commander where, yeah, you can just keep hitting, those clone spells as well, but you also can just keep hitting extra turn spells and just kind of, in what some players would say, monopolize other people's time, monopolize the game, maybe play solitaire. Yeah, so if your play group is okay with an extra turns deck, that would be a very powerful direction that you could take this commander, I am sure. Next up, Expropriate. Yeah, another extra turn spell with an additional kind of clause, essentially. Sorcery for 7 blue. Starting with you, each player votes for time or money. For each time vote, take control of this one. For each money vote, choose a permanent owned by the voter and gain control of it, exile it. So basically, again, 9 mana, drain someone for 9 if this is on top, and get an absurd effect. Essentially, if you are playing against the player that plays this, you should probably pick money so that they just take one of your things. I mean, unless you have like a Blightsteel Colossus. But yeah, you should probably just pick money because by giving someone extra turns, that's just probably never going to end well. Regardless, if you're the player who casts this, which obviously with this deck you are, hey, you're getting at least 1 extra turn because you're picking time. And then also, you get to steal the best permanent of each player. So, it's going to be hard for your opponents to recover from that. And again, if anyone gives you extra time, they're probably in even more trouble. And speaking of extra time, hey, one more extra turn spell I'm going to mention. Time Stretch. Drain someone for 10. Again, if this is on top of your library and you exile and cast it. Drain someone for 10 and take 2 extra turns after this one. It's going to be pretty hard for you to lose after setting yourself up in a way like this. Again, when it comes to a higher budget, you can definitely lean much more heavily in extra turns. Again, if your play group is okay with that, or again, I should say those are your LGS as well. This is the kind of strategy that you probably should be asking first before you play. Again, Commander Social Format, just talk. Moving on, Rite of Replication. This one is quite funny. So a sorcery for 2 blue. Blue, it's got kicker 5. It says, create tokens, copy a target creature if a spell is kicked, create 5 of those tokens instead. So again, all at the top of your library, again, with your commander's trigger, just a regular clone, so like a cackling counterpart, drain someone for 4. Cool. And then, yeah, get the effect again. But if you kick this, hey, let's make 5 token copies of our commander. We're going to get that ETB 5 times, and then the death trigger 5 times as well, because of all those legendary, rules, essentially. So, hey, brainstorm 5 times, and then cast them on top of my library 5 times. You can really set yourself up to take out probably at least one opponent. Again, if you are running an extra turn strategy, gross. I don't even want to imagine the number of extra turns you can get if you're set up properly for this. And also, again, think about this in combination with like a Thought Reflection and how many cards you can draw and just how many absurd things you can do. This can definitely be a game-ending play. I mean, it's a game-ending play with a good amount of commanders out there, but this is definitely a game-ending play with one like this, with, again, an ETB and a death trigger you can really take advantage of. So you can take advantage of a card, Mystical Tutor. Now, this one only has a very teeny tiny mana cost. It's just one, teeny tiny. Instant for a blue. Search the library for an instant sorcery card, reveal it. Shuffle your library, put it on top. Yeah, normally, tutoring, you want to get the card in your hand. That's a bit more effective. But with this one, this kind of a commander, you kind of want to just get it on top of the library, which again is perfect. You're like, hey, you know what? That player is at 11. So I'm going to go search my library for, a card that costs 11 or more. Put it on top, have my commander die, and you're gone. And then I get to cast whatever it is for free. Probably an extra turn spell. Anyways, gross card that can, again, set yourself up for some really gross plays. And it's a quite expensive card. Again, these pricier picks, a little expensive. Drivnod, Carnage, Dominus. Now, I believe this is, I don't know if this, no, it's not the most expensive Dominus, because the most expensive Dominus, I think, is the white one. Regardless, this one is incredibly impactful. 8/3 Phyrexian that says if a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control the trigger, the trigger's additional time. So, hey, your commander's got a death trigger, right? Well, now you get that twice, which is just absurd value. Again, with your Brainstorm, you're setting yourself up for the next 2 cards, right? So again, if you can pair that well, you can be like, oh, okay, I get to cast those 2 cards that I placed on top of my library again and again. I mean, I guess not cast them if they're not instant sorceries, but you know what I mean. You get to drain an opponent for whatever that total value of those 2 cards is, and if they are instant sorceries, cast both of them. So again, more clone effects, more extra turn spells, more just high value plays. Gross. Yeah, Drivnod can do a lot. And also, hey, if you pay Phyrexian Black, and exile 3 creature cards from your graveyard, you get an indestructible counter on this. And again, it's an 8/3, so it's a big threat. And also, it's really hard to deal with. So, yeah, have fun with that. Moving on, Phyrexian Tower. Hey, you're in this color combination. It's only 2 colors. You can utilize some lands that maybe just tap for a colorless. And this one actually can technically tap for, black. Tap, sacrifice creature, add black. A free sacrifice outlet. Well, technically you're tapping a land for it, so maybe 1 mana. Okay, sure. But it's one that comes on a land, so it's not really taking up a slot in your deck. It's also, giving you a benefit for sacrificing your commander, saying, hey, here's a little mana boost. Yeah, utilize it for something else. But yeah, being able to utilize something like this, just to get a kind of free sacrifice outlet to have in your deck without taking up a slot in your deck, can be massive. And again, sacrificing your commander at the right time is, of course, very important for a deck like this. Moving on, I think I brought this card up in a lot of episodes lately because it's like, this card was so budget-friendly. Feign Death was so budget-friendly for the longest time. Wizards, reprint it, please. I mean, these like Feign Death type cards, these Cheat Death type cards, spiked in price, and there are not as many as I'd like to be budget-friendly. And these are uncommons, my goodness. Reprint them. Till end turn, target creature gains when this creature dies, return to the battlefield, tap to control, they counter on it. Again, it's basically 1 mana away to have your commander, or whatever the creature Cheat Death in this case, your commander. Yeah, hey, I actually want my commander to die, so I'll sacrifice it with my outlet, and then I'll just pay 1 mana, or I'll pay 1 mana before that, and have it just come right back. Cool. ETB, death trigger again. What's not to love? Next up, Teferi's Ageless Insight. So, Yeah, hey, like Thought Reflection, this is just basically a better Thought Reflection, at least when it comes to the mana value of the card. Cost 4, if you draw a card, except the first you draw, and each you draw, draw 2 cards instead. So technically worse when they're both in play, but yeah, cost 3 less mana. Doesn't double your draw for your draw step draw, but it doubles all your other draws. How many times can I say draw? Yeah, basically, again, drawing 6 with the Brainstorm trigger instead of 3 is just massive. Again, 4 times the amount of value that you're getting in your hand. Absolutely absurd. Make sure you're considering this one if you get the budget for it. And finally, I just want to mention, yeah, I mean, you don't have to just focus heavily, again, on all those instants and sorceries that have a high converted mana cost. Again, that's probably more the direction I would go because, yeah, you get to actually cast the cards. But again, Draco, a card that costs 16 mana. Yeah, it is not instant sorcery. In fact, it's kind of a derpy dragon. It's a 9/9. It's going to cost 2 less for each base land among lands you control. Has flying. So basically, this one's going to cost, what, 12 at the most, or at the least for you, because you've got swamps and islands. Begin your upkeep, sacrifice unless you pay 10. Cost reduced by 2 for each base land. So again, if you don't pay 6, you're going to have to sacrifice it. So you're never going to play this. But yeah, if you have it on top of your library, and you can set the top of your library with your Brainstorm trigger, then you can drain an opponent for 16. So yeah, that is a ton of life to take someone out with. I mean, again, I probably wouldn't lean as heavily into these because they are more like one-shot effects and they are just completely dead in your hand, and you really can't use them. I mean, yeah, you can set yourself up. There are definitely certain ones that I might consider, and yeah, I might consider just a few of them as a nice kind of finisher, but I'd probably focus more heavily on those instant sorceries that do have a high converted mana cost that can still give me a lot of value. So yeah, make sure you're considering those as well. Regardless, that was all the budget buys, all the pricey picks. I think this is a very interesting commander. I think that I am very excited to kind of build something around it. I think that there's, again, a lot of exciting things you can do with it. Again, those kind of cheat death type plays, those kinds of ways to take advantage of the number of cards that you're drawing with this, kind of like a Thought Reflection, the ways to, again, like, set yourself up again and again and again, the ways to clone this and, just actually, do it again. And again, and again, and yeah, higher budgets, yeah, extra turns. Definitely a gross, brutal way to go about it, but definitely a powerful one as well. I think I like the design of this commander. I really like the kind of play between the two abilities, and yeah, I think it's just very interesting, very nice. Again, if you are interested in this commander as well, make sure you check out that deck list in the description below, because again, when new exciting commanders like this one are spoiled, even though the set is not out yet, sometimes cards that work well with it tend to go up in price sooner rather than later. So again, make sure you're considering picking some of those cards up, and yeah, check out that link in the description below. Also, if you haven't seen my most recent episode from the end of the day yesterday on Sword of Once and Future, finally it is revealed, the 10th sword. Make sure you check this one out. And if you haven't seen my other episode on the sword that I made, you can see exactly how close I was, and I was kind of close on how this sword actually turned out. So yeah, make sure you check that episode out. Comment below with your thoughts on this commander, and yeah, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. And gosh, I messed up the ending. Here we go. Make sure that you're also staying tuned for even more exciting quick takes and spoilers coming out now. Thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.